Nearly 50% of the followers on Twitter of President Biden's account are fake, according to a new audit. The news comes just days after Elon Musk tweeted that his $44 billion deal to acquire Twitter is temporarily on hold, pending details supporting Twitter's calculation that fake accounts only make up 5% or less of the company's users. But if it's accurate, the audit would mean that Musk has been right all along in his assertion that Twitter has been misstating the number of spam fake bot accounts in its filing to investors. Never one to shy away from controversy, Elon Musk tweeted his response to the story early this morning, noted that the number of bots is nearly 10 times what Twitter purported to be in their financial disclosures. Asked about Twitter's bot problem during his interview on the All In podcast on Monday, here's what he had to say.
It's a material adverse misstatement. If they in fact have been vociferously claiming less than 5% of fake or spam accounts, but in fact it is 4 or 5 times that number, or perhaps 10 times that number. This is a big deal. It's not this. It's sort of like if you said, "Okay, I agree to buy your house." You say the house has less than 5% termites. That's an acceptable number. But if it turns out it is 90% termites, that's not okay. It's not the same house.
Interesting analogy there. So what does this mean for the future of Twitter? Here to break it down is a member of the House Judiciary Committee, Colorado, Congressman Ken Buck. Congressman, good to see you again. Here's my question. Is this a private matter, or do you think Congress should be investigating and looking into this?
Well, if there was fraud involved, then I think the Department of Justice should be looking into what Twitter did. But I think this is really an issue that Elon Musk is using. He may want to renegotiate the deal and get better terms, but he should get what he paid for. That's the bottom line. And if he was paying for a company with 95% authentic users, then he should get that company.
Congressman, is this something, obviously you'll take back the majority, or I say likely take back the majority in November. Is this something that can be, that there's any legislative angles to?
Well, I think one of the things we need to look at is what these companies, Facebook, Twitter, other companies, are representing to the public. If they're representing that if you buy advertising with us, you're going to reach so many people, real live people, and that's not the case, then that kind of fraud should be investigated by Congress, and it may require new laws.
I was thinking about this today, right? So one, I kind of wonder what you were saying. Is Elon Musk just trying to get the dollar amount down, saying, the more I think about it, 44 million is too much, and so he wants to get it down? Or is this way, kind of the way he described that analogy, is he saying, well, the house is full of termites and I want to walk away, right? He doesn't even want to try to salvage the deal. I think it's got to probably be one of the two. If he were to walk away, though, is that bad news for conservatives? Because I feel like since he announced he was taking it over, even though he hasn't taken control of it yet, they've tried to look like that they're being less uneven-handed, if you will.
Well, I think there's a few things going on here. One, I appreciate the fact that the liberals' hair is on fire right now. They are so upset that somebody that actually believes in fairness might be buying Twitter and doing something good that might even the playing field for conservatives. So I appreciate the fact that he's made a lot of positive statements about what he would do with Twitter and how he would make it fair and a free speech platform. And so I hope that this sale goes through, and I hope he follows through on his promises.
Another issue I think about is the advertisers. The CEO of Twitter actually responded to some of this criticism by saying that any specific estimation for the number of bots cannot actually be performed externally because both public and private information is required. I mean, if that is the case, then how do these investors know that they're getting their money's worth? How do they know it's worth what they are trying to advertise to fake accounts, essentially?
Absolutely, Lindsay. I think one of the big issues is, has a fraud been perpetrated on the people doing business with Twitter? And there are a lot of people that are leaving Twitter right now. And I think that the public is interested in this because the advertisers need to get their money's worth, just like Elon Musk needs to get his money's worth.
You know, before I let you go, Elon Musk announced today on Twitter, of course, that he's voting Republican this year. You've been at the forefront of this battle to hold Silicon Valley and these big tech companies accountable. Is it good that he's being publicly naming himself as a Republican? Does that help the cause?
I think that Joe Biden is really helping the cause so much that Elon Musk probably helps the cause a little bit. But and I say that in jest, because all the terrible things that are happening to this country right now really can be blamed on the Biden administration. The Trump administration had us moving in the right direction with energy independence. We had plenty of baby formula on the shelves with the Trump administration. We were a strong country that was feared by our enemies and respected by our friends. All those things have changed under the Biden administration. So I don't think Elon Musk moves the needle a whole lot, but I do appreciate the fact that he has come to his senses and is going to vote Republican.
All right. Congressman Kim Buck, always appreciate your time. Good to see you.
Thank you. Good.